There's Krista. Should be out there. Ben, how you doing, sir? Hi, Krista.
Ben, I like your background.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. You know, guys, I just built an office. This is the first time I've had an office ever. Just built it.
Wow.
I
It
needed
looks good.
enrollments.
So you're doing your enrollments in there now?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a train wreck before. I'm doing enrollments in front of like 60 people talking about it wasn't working. Yeah.
Yeah, that isn't the ideal way to do it. I mean, because and sometimes people say they have no problem with doing enrollments for anybody who's still doing things that way. Sometimes people say, well, it's no big deal doing the enrollment at my front counter. And I have no problem with it. And what you'll find out once you do this in an office is that now you'll get people actually telling you what their problems are. When they say, oh, it's instead of hearing it's too expensive, you're going to say, well, I just had to pay money to re-roof my house and I'm really embarrassed about this, but can I pay, can I work something out for this month? And then everything's fine after that. You'll hear those kind of things. So you'll start to see some insights about things that you wouldn't have had before, or you'll find out that what the real problem is in their divorce situation that they didn't want to, talk about.
Lots of that stuff coming up, or stuff that happened to Johnny that nobody needs to hear. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. And then you find out what the health issue is that you can actually walk them through. So therefore, it's okay to enroll. That's exactly right. So that's why it's really important to have a private way to talk to them, especially when you're talking about money, especially when you're talking about personal things. And Master Oliver has a really good and I formalized it. If you look at when they say I want to wait about it, you guys should look at there's 5 things that people want to talk about. Look that up on the Facebook group if you haven't done that yet. And they want to talk about schedule, time, or time and schedule is one. Are they going to be in the area for a while? Are there any health issues and budget and so on, and how to handle any kind of those objections? And those are all good to do from an office. So that's great. Well, let's get started. What kind of questions do you guys have to work on? There's a little bit of free form today, and then we want to talk about how you guys are going to build up some more marketing. It's middle of May here now, but how marketing is going to go in the summer. And I appreciate you being here, Tony, one of our newest guys here. So what questions do you guys have now to start for any challenges? Go ahead, Bob.
I was going to say, and Heidi, welcome, Heidi, again. So
yeah,
they're both our newest.
Yeah, good to see you too.
I have a question.
Please.
We still unfortunately have an after school program. I am canceling at the end of this school year, so 6 more weeks.
Okay.
And I was wondering how or if anyone had any pitfalls that they could talk about with canceling that, and also how to kind of talk to the parents who are in the after school program now to transition them into our more traditional program. And, how do I tell them that and hopefully keep them?
Well, when you say you have an after school program, what you're doing now is, are you talking about a transport after school care, or are you talking about, okay. Transport after school care, and how many people do you have in it?
52.
Okay, you have 52 people in your transport after school, and they normally would have been terminating at the end of the summer anyway.
We typically try to transition them into training during the summertime too. So we get a number of them who continue through the summer as well, and then renew their after school program in the fall.
Okay. So they would have, the ideal situation is all 52 would have been doing regular martial arts training in the summer, and then they would have gone back to, in a perfect world, they would have, in the past, you would have brought them back into after school transport after school care. Yeah. Okay.
That's right.
And you want to transition out of doing transport after school. It's just not going to be available.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, there's no, one thing when we're doing changes, and I think, so this applies to everybody. And I know I've done a lot of changes in my career, going from not rotating curriculum to rotating curriculum, changing my schedule completely dramatically, getting rid of complete programs. I had a kickboxing program that was really big. I got rid of it completely. And one of the rules that I would always follow, and again, this applies to everybody when you're doing some major thing, is it's easier to cut your arm off an inch at a time than at your shoulder than it is an inch at a time. So it's easier to just be really clear and transparent and give everybody options all at once. And then everybody can be clear and transparent, and there's not a lot of room for long conversations, long meetings. So when you're having these kind of situations, and again, I try to apply this generally for everybody, there shouldn't ever be like meetings or conversations about why you're doing such and such. You know, we're not doing it because we can't. There never conversations about we're not going to do this because it's not profitable for us. That's not their problem. We're not doing this because we don't have the staff to keep it up. It's not their problem. None of that stuff is really relevant. What's relevant to people is that, you know, if you're canceling a program or you're doing something different or the schedule's changing, maybe the schedule changes and they don't, you know, have the class that they used to like coming to, that it's different now, and they've got to adapt to it. And here's what the new situation is. So let's help you walk through the situation and make your plans for the future. So, so that's one thing I think that's really an overarching thing whenever you're making some changes is, that doesn't mean we're mean to anybody. That doesn't mean we're saying too bad, it's my way or the highway. But in the context of, I'm going to get from point A to point B, what's the most expeditious way to make sure we communicate what the new state of affairs is, and then and then let them know what their options are in the best way possible, and then communicate the options as a positive thing for them. So what are the positive things for them? In this case, the positive thing for them is there's some negative things. One is that they don't have you as an option for after school transport, after school care anymore. So if it was me, what I would do is, now were almost all these people doing martial arts in their after school care program? Is that part of what they were doing?
Yes, yeah. We just drive them to their class basically. But
Yeah. So
they're all doing martial arts. Yeah.
yeah. So it's mandatory that they do martial arts in their
Yes.
class, right? So in theory, so one of the errors is that they would have had the option to not do martial arts for the next 5 or 6 years, right? They weren't enrolled in like a leadership program.
No.
Yeah. So I think I would do this in a couple stages. Stage one would be, I would just consider this like, in this class isn't in our quick start program. You've been with us a little while, Krista. This program isn't really like about renewals, but this would be a time where what's my next stage in my school? And so this would be a time where I'd sit down and talk to them about what their goals are and whether, you know, each of these people, some of them have been with you a long time, what their goals are, how they're going to move forward in their program. Some of you guys are in our leadership training here in martial arts wealth. And I would have a conversation with them about what their goals are in martial arts and how that's going to matter for them in their life. And I don't know, Bob, if everybody has access to the past, present, future stuff or not.
I believe we have that in the Facebook group, but I can check.
Okay. Yeah, you could look that up in the Facebook group for past, present, future. And what that essentially means is you meet with each person individually rather than do some big pronouncements. Say, here's what we want to do with each person before the end of the school year. Set your plans up for the summer and for following that. And let's talk about how martial arts is fitting into your goals. Since you started with us at the beginning, whenever they started, whether it was last week or last year or last month, it doesn't matter. You were at this point in martial arts and you wanted discipline out of it. And now you're here. And this is the improvement we saw in discipline.
Progress.
What's that?
That
Yes,
wasn't.
you said.
That was somebody coming into the room.
Yeah. So this is the progress you've made so far. And let me add my iPad onto it too, so I'll kind of give you a better direct view of how to do this. But you can look this up in we did a big extensive thing about it in our Facebook group.
What would be the search term for this, sir?
Past, present, future.
Thank you.
Yeah. And there's like an hour I did on this at one of our live meetings. But it's essentially where were you at here? This is where you're at now, and this is all the progress you made regarding discipline, not regarding you learned 25 kicks or you learned, how to kill people with your, pinky or whatever. I mean, none of that really matters, other than as a platform to learn the other skills. That's something we've all got to get in clear in mind. It's never going to be a value conversation about them learning the specific martial arts. It's what the martial arts teaches them and other things. So that's why I recommend watching the video. Then if they keep along this path for the next few years, as they get to black belt and second degree black belt and beyond, and Krista, whatever the model is in your school, where do you see that, Mr. Jones or Mrs. Jones? And then they meet on that. Okay. So that's the model that you're going to follow. And whether you have a renewal program in place yet and you're at that level with us or not, doesn't really matter. So they're setting a goal for, second degree black belt or third degree black belt. And I know for some of you guys that's out of scope, but you can still, whether you have that in place, you can still think about that they're setting goals for the future. And I really recommend this. We do this at the end of the school year for everybody in the school anyway. So this applies to everybody. We sit down with everybody and we set their plans up for through the summer and for the rest of their kind of the rest of their life. What are they going to do in martial arts? So we do that at the end of the summer. Then we do that again at the end of the November, December time period. So twice a year they get talked to. Therefore, if they're, and you're going to get a couple of responses, Krista, you're going to get one response is, oh, we're going to be gone for the summer. We're going to take a break from karate. We don't really want to do karate anymore, whatever. And hopefully that's very few people. Most people hopefully are like, yeah, we want to keep doing martial arts. We're going to be gone for 2 weeks in October, June, but we're going to be doing martial arts all through the time. If you've done a good job, that's what you get for most people. Okay, great. Well, let's plan what our plan is through there. And by the way, in the fall, we're not going to be doing after school martial arts like we're doing now. The way it's going to work is we do it this way.
Okay. So this just do a by the way, like no big deal.
Yeah. But remember, we're doing it in, I want everybody to hear this message. We're doing it in the context that they're setting goals about how martial arts really makes a big difference in real things. Now, I'm not saying for you guys that martial arts isn't real or it doesn't matter or that it's BS. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, I'm saying more than that. I'm saying that martial arts really does matter for itself, for its own sake, and for all these other things. But we have to communicate these other things to the parents and and even to adult students. If you keep doing this, you're going to be in better shape and you're going to feel healthier and you're going to lose weight and these things are going to happen, but it's going to take some time. So what's our goal? And it's not to do it for another month and pay another $250. You see the difference there in the conversation? So Krista, that's the conversation you have with everybody. You have the conversation. And again, I don't want to get this into a renewal conversation, but you just have that conversation. And then let's make our plan for how it's going to go. And if they say, yeah, we plan on quitting and we're going to finish and stop at the end of the year, I'd rather have that conversation right now and see whether you can change that or make them feel differently about that. If not, then that's okay too. Make sense? Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, if they say the only thing we really care about your stuff for is for after school, killing time, and we just kind of happen to like you guys because you were cheaper, which might have been the case. Well, then you didn't want them anyway, because that wasn't, now you're establishing that, right? And it doesn't matter. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. And I'd rather have that conversation. I'm never afraid of having the conversation with somebody that, oh, we were planning on quitting anyway because Johnny wants to do T-ball and soccer. I want to have the conversation. I don't want to have the conversation when they've missed classes for 3 weeks and now I can't get them to answer a call. And then they said, oh yeah, but we already quit. Even if they're paying, even if they're auto drafting their credit card but they've already quit. That's a bad conversation to have. Is everybody with me on that? And Krista, does that help?
Yes, it helps a lot. Thank you.
Perfect. Let us know how that goes. So right now, let's make sure on an action plan, and this can be for everybody. If I was anybody here, and we're actually doing this in our school, The way that we call it, we give everybody cinch bags. We bought these. I don't know if everybody can see this. It says, I've got a virtual background now. I can tell you guys why in a little bit. I have the virtual background because I'm not going to be at my look. It looked the same, didn't it? Isn't that funny? Anyway, so this cinch bag says train for life and my vision. And we're going to write what their rank goal is. Like they're going to be 3rd degree black belts by May of, 2029 or whatever date they're going to be. That goes in there, and they all get a cinch bag. They cost us about $2. And we meet with every student so that each student gets that conversation that I just mentioned to Krista. And you guys can all do this with everybody. We're meeting with every student, and one of a couple things is going to happen. I want to establish what their plans are through the summer. I want to establish what their plans are. It says train for life, and it's our Karate Built logo, but it's the same it's the same font, but it's a different theme right now. They plan on what they're going to do with martial arts really for the rest of their life. Now they're either in our leadership program, or if they're not, then we move them there. And again, this is not about renewals today, but I want to have a conversation about what their goals are. And then that keeps them focused on training through the summer. That's why we generally don't we don't lose anybody through the summer. They either keep training because they know that it's not a time to quit over the summer, or if they already have plans because they're going to be in India for 2 months over the summer, they understand they're already planning on coming back. And we put them in the calendar for the day they're going to come back. And it's already scheduled, and they're going to get reminders with Schedule Once we use to text and email them and remind them when they're going to come back. And we give them a call, and we mail them the week that they're going to come back. So everything's all planned out so that every single student has a plan for what's going to happen during the summer, and or piggybacking over the top of, or leapfrogging over the top of when their vacation is. And then for those of you in our higher level program that are doing renewals, this is a time to present the renewal or the paid in full or whatever we're going to do next for those of you guys in our higher level program. Any questions about that?
Where do you order those bags from, sir?
I don't know. Master Samwell gets it. You can get cinch bags super cheap everywhere. They're like all over the place. Thanks. Good question, MJ. It's a great question. I don't have the answer for you, but they're so easy. In fact, I would say that every time we order them, we get them from a different company because it's whatever the special is, and you order it from one company, and this year it's different. So every year, what I would tell you, don't get the super cheapest ones, because if you see at the very bottom here, this goes through the bottom and doesn't have a grommet. The ones with grommets on the bottom, the grommets tend to pull out, because you don't want to buy the expensive ones. We buy the cheap ones because we're going to give them another cinch bag, usually once a year we give them a cinch bag because they're just super cheap and everybody likes them. And I use them for my gear. I put some of my gear in here, and then I just carry them around. But then we designed it like this. I thought of this because when I was in high school sports, you know how in high school sports, they have your name on your shirt and they just write like Moody or your name there. You know what I'm talking about? Some of you guys. So, somebody spotlighted me. Thanks, Bob. But we just write their goal date. So if they're going to get their 2nd degree black belt in May of 2026 or whatever the date is, we write May 2026 after we have the conversation with them, and then hand them the bag. So now they're carrying around a bag with whatever. It could be their gear from school or whatever they have. And now they've got May of 2026. Hey, what's that? That's when I'm going to get 2nd degree black belt.
I have one more question, sir. I remember you saying, let's say you're enrolling somebody, or it's really a Tuesday question, but let's say you conference them, they're excited, but they say, hey, I want to wait until the summer because I have a lot going on. I know your answer would be, I would hate for you to, pay extra when you come back, or, when things calm down. Can I just hear that script? Like how you would answer it?
Well, there's two pieces that are implied there. There's always three things in sales. Let me answer it a broader way that I think will apply to everybody. There's always three. Hey, you gotta let my iPad share, Bob. make me a co-host on the iPad if you don't mind.
I got you.
Maybe. It's still not letting me share.
How about now? Try it now.
Okay, yeah, there we go. So there's always three things that we need in any sales. I would recommend people write this down. One is they have to want it. So whatever we're doing, if it was selling shoes, cars, martial arts, apples, I mean, they have to want to do the thing that you're providing, the service or product you're providing. It doesn't matter what it is. If they don't want it, it makes no difference. It doesn't matter. So MJ, regarding what you're saying, the question I would have in that context is they say they want to wait till the summer. If I was doing it or you were doing it, you can judge that yourself. Like, do you feel like they really do want to do it, or did we do a good enough job that they want to do it? My answer there feels like it's no. They really may not want to do it or know why they want to do it now. But let's say they do want to do it and there is actually some reason for the delay. There should be two. What you're asking about is the second part, that there should be a deal or a penalty. So the deal and penalty on any sale, now on your basic sale, what's the deal and penalty? So on a basic enrollment, and I'll apply MJ to the renewal like you're talking about, I'll come back to that. But when we do a basic enrollment, you are generally having something like $600 initial installment. And then let's say it's, $347 a month. And you'll present your, whatever they brought in for a coupon. Let's say it was a 2-week free pass. And we'll write on the, let's just say this is the paper we're using to present the financial part. And we'll write on the paper, we'll say, and we've got videos on this, you can see, well, you have your 2-week free pass and a uniform would cost you $59 or whatever you guys charge. What I'd like to do today is trade the value of your 2-week free pass towards the basic program. So instead of paying $600 to stay, you pay whatever discount you're giving them, you pay $200. So you save $400. Plus you get a free uniform today that saves you another $59. I just put 00. So your total savings is going to be $459. And then we circle it 3 times. That was 3. Okay, so that's how I present the financials. Now, MJ, on the renewal, we present it a little differently, and the savings would be there too, right? You with me on that, MJ?
Yes, sir.
So that's important because you're asking the question of what happens at this point when they say they want to wait. Now, on an intro for everybody else for Thursday call for quick start, this is what you're presenting for basic or something like this. Now, when I say deal penalty, the deal is that they got this savings, and it's really clear when you write it on the page. It needs to be written on the page like this. You can't have it already pre-printed and have all these numbers already on the page. It has to be done like first grade math. Just the way I did it. I can go back over this again if anybody wants me to, but it has to be written in order on the page like I did it so that people can digest it. And so there's a deal. If they do it today, and they do it because they traded the value of their coupon. It's not because I'm being a high sales pressure guy. It's not because, hey, if you do it today, you get a deal. I said, why? If you want to trade the value of your coupon towards the program, you get to save this money. So that's the deal. Now, if they say what MJ said, now I know you're referring to renewal, but if they said it on the enrollment, we'd say, okay, you could do that, but I'd hate to see you spend another $459 if you wait. Why would they spend more money? Because they waited. Well, because they would have used up the value of the 2-week free pass. Does everybody understand? They would have used that value up. They had whatever they brought in. They had a Groupon, they had a 2-week free pass, they had a 30-day pass, they had a whatever they had, they brought in. That's what they're using up. We're not being jerks. We're not being hard salespeople. We're not being today only. It happens to be today only, but that's only because they would use the value of their coupon. Okay, Now, I'll come back to yours, MJ, and make it specific to the renewal, because just so you get your answer. And some of our-
Master Moody, at some point, I would really appreciate it if you wipe that clean and did it one more
Yeah,
time.
I'll do it over.
At
I'll
some
do it
point.
over again in a second. But the deal also implies a penalty. The deal is they save the money. The penalty is if they wait, that's okay, but they wouldn't get the deal. That's normal in almost everything you guys ever buy. Now, you might think, well, that's not true. That's not normal in everything I ever buy, but it is. The deal in some cases is that you get to eat the dinner. You get to eat the food because you're hungry. The penalty is you're hungrier because you got to wait. You don't eat now, you're hungrier, right? So there's all kinds of scenarios that you buy stuff and pay money for things. You wanted food. The deal is that you pay money now, you eat the food. The penalty is you wait till later, you don't get to eat the food. So in pretty much any scenario, there's a reason to do it now versus waiting. And in cases where it's an optional activity, people will tend to defer the decision. So you have to make it easy. Now, the third thing that's really important, I said three things. The third thing is you have to make it safe. Now, how do you make it safe to make the decision? What do I mean by that? If they make the decision to give you, I'm going to ask now, how would you like to take care of the initial in the first month? And Ben, I'll come back and do the whole thing. We'll make sure everybody gets their questions answered first. How do you take care of the initial in the first month? Now they have to give me $547 to get started. And they may have felt uncomfortable with that because they had the 2-week free pass. They thought they were going to try it for free. This may have felt like, wow, now I got to pay you $500 to get started. I like what you did in the lesson. I want it. That's good. But maybe I don't want to pay $47 today. Well, that's when we use the belt guarantee. I understand how you feel. First of all, we want to make sure we cover all the objections. And that's a little bit longer conversation. We've covered that in a few different places. And I'll refer you to some of the longer conversations, not because I want to avoid it, but that's where we would make sure we cover all their objections, make sure that they feel comfortable. That helps them feel safe, right? That they aren't moving out of the area. We've covered the schedule. We've made sure that there's no health issues. We make sure it fits in their budget. If there's any problems fitting in the budget, and then we make sure they really want to do it. That's one of the other things. Okay, so we make sure all those things are covered, and then we have our belt guarantee. Let's get them to the first belt. If you don't think it's the best thing you've ever done for your kid, write that down that way. If it's not the best thing for your kid, that's not right. It's not the right way to say it. You have to say if it's not the best thing you've ever done for your kid. For adults, it's not the best thing you've ever done for yourself. But for kids, if it's not the best thing you've ever done for your kid, exactly that way. I don't make you memorize stuff exactly most of the time, but that's one that's got to be done that way. If it's not the best thing you've ever done for your kid, then you just cancel the program, no questions asked. So that helps them feel safe that they made the decision. When you buy other things, this is very similar. If you buy an airline ticket on Southwest Airlines, what's the safety there? You can buy the ticket and you can use those funds another time, right? That's why a lot of people, before pandemic, Southwest Airlines was a great place to buy tickets because you didn't have big change fees. So they made a lot of money, and they were one of the most profitable airlines because they had more safety measures in place. Is everybody with me on that? These three things? Yeah.
Sure.
I can't see everybody, so hopefully you guys are all. Please ask questions if you're not. Okay.
That's a one quick question, sir. When you do it,
MJ, let me make sure I cover one thing too. I want to hear your question too. On the renewal, your saving is the saving over 6 years all the way to second degree black belt. So you want to point that out. The safety is that they've been with us for a few weeks. So we don't really need any guarantees. Unless they have an objection. Maybe they have an objection about, it might be 6 years and they bring that up, even though we don't make a big deal out of it. They might say, well, I don't know if I can do it for that long. Then we have a couple ways to handle that objection, which we can cover later if you want to cover that. But go ahead. What's your question?
Just when you're doing this enrollment, is it a piece of paper or are you doing it on your iPad if you or your staff?
If it was me during the pandemic, we used the iPad. We have a book. So we use, let me clear this if everybody's okay with that. So we have a book. This is our book that we use. I know a lot of people really get into using their PowerPoint, and you just saw me use my iPad on stuff. I'm the technical guy, right? But I like using a book with really nicely laminated, see, there's no plastic edges, bound presentation sheets. And so some people call these flip books, but I don't like that term because we don't like flip it like a triangle on the table. It's literally just sitting on the table like it's a regular book. And we present the features and benefits here like this with either a statement for me, this is a statement for me, or testimonials on this page. So this is how we present features and benefits. And then when we do the paper, to answer specifically your question, oh man, I haven't changed this in a while. This is my really old pricing. It should say 347. I apologize. I haven't pulled this out in a while. So you guys know how long this has been sitting here. So this is like 4-year-old pricing here. But this is the paper we use. I have to go get new copies of it. I haven't anybody asked me. Good question, MJ, because I haven't pulled the paper out for a long time. But this is the paper. So we have a piece of paper so that if you guys see this, then we would take a pen and I don't mind.
Non-laminated
Sorry?
piece of paper, non-laminated piece, just a piece of paper.
No, this is just a regular piece of paper.
Okay.
Because I want to be able to write on it. So I'll write on this. And if I was doing it with you guys here, I'd write the basic program tuition is $597. It'd be $347. Okay, so this is not the one we have at the school. It's $597 to get started and $347 a month. But you have a 2-week free pass. So I write that on the top. So there's space for that. And a uniform will cost you $59. I'd write that on the top. I'm doing that because I want to show it as savings later. What I'd like to do today, so this would be sitting on the table along with the feature and benefit page that I just showed you. So this is sitting on the table too. And then what I would do, or that what we do, not I would do. I hate that I said it that way because it's not it's our system in the school. Every single person does it exactly this way. It's not me. So what we do is we say, what I'd like to do today is trade the value of your 2-week free pass. That verbiage is important because we don't want to say, today only we have a special. That sounds like sales. That sounds salesy. We want it to be a value that we're trading for the initial. So what I'd like to do today is trade the value of the 2-week free pass towards the basic program. So instead of paying $597, you just pay $200 to get started. I know Master Oliver likes it to be $300. We use $200. I think $300 is fine. So however you guys want to do it. So instead of paying $597, you just pay $200. So you save. And again, this is the old pricing, so it really is saved $300. Sorry, guys, I'm writing funny on the sheet. I was talking and writing. So you save 400. So I'd write the word save. I'd write 400 with 0.00. And you also get a free uniform with that, which saves you $59. So your total savings is $459. So I'd write that and then I'd circle it 3 times. I wrote save 400. Then I'd say they saved 59. Then I'd draw a line like first grade math. Then I add it up and then I circle it. And we do it that way so that they can digest the savings and get the emphasis is on the savings is for people, everybody with me, because now they can handle understanding the process. I can't tell you how many people I've looked at their pricing sheets and there's like family member discounts and 2-member discounts and all this other pricing, and the savings is all there. And there's all this stuff about different days and all this other crap on there. But when I did that, you could understand the savings. Yeah, right. Now there's actually quite a few different numbers on the page, but you understood what each of the numbers meant. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Then I simply say, how would you like to take care of the initial in the first month? Notice I didn't add up the 200 and the 347. I just said, how do you want to take care of the initial in the first month? And if you say, use my credit card, I grab the credit card, I run it for $347 or $547.
Master Moody, on the numbers that you have there, the 597 in front of the initial and that tuition, is that blank and you write it in, or is that already pre-printed on there?
Everything that's pre-printed is pre-printed. It's just like this.
Okay. All right.
This is the exact sheet, except this says 600 and this says 347. This is like 4 or 5 years old. I need to print the new one so I have it in the book in case somebody smart like MJ asks, because that's a good question. Then I can show you that.
Does the down payment, is that for tuition, or is that just, it's not like a first and last down payment, or is it just straight up a down payment?
Just to get you started. How do you want to take care of the initial in the first month? The number of people that have asked that question is like 0.
I had someone ask
Actual
me.
students.
what
The number of karate people ask that question is like hundreds, but the number of actual students out of like 17,000 enrollments that have asked that question is like close to 0. But you guys worry about that all the time.
I used to freak out about it.
Of
I
course,
just-
I totally get that you guys used to freak out about it. I get that. That's why I'm saying I totally understand that you guys worry about it, but like nobody else does. If you just ask how you want to take care of the initial first month. Now, at this point, there are objections and then we can work on how to handle them, but it's usually not how to break down the pricing into little itsy bitsy parts, you know? It's like if you go buy a car, it's how much the car costs. You don't ask why the aluminum head of the cylinders are, you know, contributing to the cost of the overall Ferrari.
What is it for? So when they ask what it's for, the initial installment, where does that money go? Is that
I
money
do
you just-
exactly what I just said, Patrick. I said, that's just to get you started.
Yeah,
How
but
did
what
you want to take care
like,
of
is it?
How would you
No, I
like,
realize that, but
just to get you started, how would you like to take care of the initial in the first month?
okay, but what is it? Just does it go towards the bottom line, or do you know, does everyone say, oh, what's, because sometimes we get like, oh, what's the enrollment fee? What is, you know what I mean? It's in the language.
You're cutting out a little bit there, man. I'm not sure exactly what you're saying. Are you role playing with me as a student, or are you
No,
asking
I'm just wondering
where I'm
that
whether-
initial fee. What does it go towards? Is that deposit, or is that, do they get it back, or is it just this is karate, the school keep it?
we run the credit card and it's part of the tuition for the program. But like there's what we say to the student or the parent is it's just to get you started. How would you like to take care of the initial in the first month? Are you actually asking how I put it in my P&L?
Yes, like does it go towards the first month, or does it go towards anything like that? Or
All that stuff just as part of tuition. It's all
okay,
tuition.
so it's literally just pure profit.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. Okay.
I'll give Master Oliver credit for something he told me about 20 years ago. So I was doing this same thing and I was taking the initial, but I wasn't getting the first month up front. And he said, why aren't you getting the first month up front? I said, well, what do you mean? I get the first month in 30 days. And he goes, why aren't you doing it up front? I said, what do you mean? He said, why aren't you getting in the 30? Why are you waiting 30 days? He goes, why aren't you get the first month? I said, what do you mean? And we went back and forth and he said, Okay, idiot, why don't you just ask for it the first month up front? And then I realized about 30 or 40% of people that we did enrollments with would say, so do I pay the first month now or do we do it in 30 days, like when we would present this? And from that moment on, I asked for the first month up front. And you know how many people give us the first month up front? Not 100%, but about 75% give us the first month up front. A few people want to delay and defer the first month for a little bit. Now, what you should learn about that is by that time in my career, I had done about 8,000 enrollments. Now at this point, it's about 17,000, but about that time in my career, I've done about 8,000 enrollments times $200. So you can add up how much money I just lost and threw away. Because all of those people renewed before the end of their term. So that's, what is that? 200 times 8,000. Somebody do the math on that of how much money I just threw away.
I think I understand. I think my question was that because you call it the initial installment, so it makes it sound like that's the first month. That was my question. Really.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
It does to me.
It does to you. Yeah, right. It does to you, but to 0% of your students and people, it does. If you just look, guys, here, I get it that this is a kind of a sticky point that people have. Don't get me wrong. I get it. It's a sticky point for you. It's a sticky point because you're used to doing things other ways. But that's the reason it's a sticky point. And that's the only reason it's a sticky point. Let me say that again. The only reason it's a sticky point is because you're used to doing it another way. I have other people on this call that are doing it this way, and it's not a sticky point. Why? Because it's just not a sticky point.
It's not a sticky point. It's not a sticky point. I'm just trying to understand the logic behind it. Because when I first saw that it was called initial installment, I thought, oh, that's the first month. And then below it says first month up front. So that's what you say what initial means first, doesn't it? So
okay, well, I don't want to debate what sticky point is. If you just do it this way, you'll make more money. Just do it this way, and you don't have to call it anything. Let me ask you a trick question, though. And Patrick, I'll say it to you. How much is my basic program? Assume that's 347 and that's 600. How much is my basic program?
347.
That's how much it is? Somebody else answer the question for Patrick. Somebody else answer the question for Patrick. Somebody else answer the question. How much is my basic program?
$4,761.
That's the right answer.
So it's the total cost, and
Yeah.
you're just doing a down payment, and then you're breaking down monthly. I think that's what he did here.
Yeah, that's how much the basic program is. We have 0 programs that cost per month. We have 0 programs that cost per month. Nobody ever buys a program that's a monthly program. Ever. That's never happened in the history of the school.
I think Patrick just needed to hear what the total amount was.
Right.
The initial payment goes towards that total amount, and then you just broke it up monthly.
Right. No, I think everybody needs to understand that. So I asked, there you go. So I asked the students, not my students, my instructors who are doing the sales or practicing, they practice all the time. I say, how much is the program? They say the same thing as you, Patrick. They say, well, it's 347 a month. And I go, no, wrong answer. And then somebody figures it out and says exactly that, like MJ did. And then how much would my leadership program be? My leadership program is 697 times 60, plus the down payment's about $42,000. Our leadership program is $42,000. Now they can pay that in a single payment, they get a discount, or they can pay that monthly, variety of different ways.
Okay, now I understand. Okay, so it's 347 times 12 plus the initial installment is the real cost of the program. I get it. Okay, that's very smart. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
How soon do you their first payment after the initial?
So that's a good question. So let's just go through. So how the process would work. Make it really simple. The way that it would work, and let's just assume it's really smooth. So in about 50% of the cases, if we do want, deal, safety. So if we get 1, 2, and 3 right, and we do this really, really good, then these are really easy. So if they really want it, because we did a really great intro lesson, When we do the financial part, they're gonna give us the initial and the first month. Right? So that comes next. So they're gonna pay money there, right? And all they pay is like the, $600 or whatever the initial is
We
gonna be.
generally just do the initial, not
Right.
the first month. Yeah.
Yeah, so start doing that now.
Okay.
So like today, start saying, instead of pay the initial, start saying, pay the initial in the first month and you'll start making more money and nothing will change.
Okay.
Like literally nothing will change. I told you I had like 8,000 enrollments at that point that I missed $300 on, or $200 at that time because it was a while ago. So that's like, I don't want to do the math, but if you want to do the math, it's $160,000 I threw out.
1.6 million.
200 times 8,000 I thought was, no, 200. So, oh God, you're going to make me do the math, aren't you? Oh crap, it is 1.6 million. I didn't want to do the math. It was
Apparently, we're
1.6
throwing
million.
that out as well.
Well, to be a little better, it's probably about 1 million, because not all of
Okay.
those would have renewed. Let's say not all of those would have renewed. So to be fair, it's probably about 1 million. So I threw about 1 million. Damn it. Now I'm gonna have anxiety. Okay, so it's about $1 million I threw out. Anyway, all right. So yeah, literally it's that easy. It's just, how do you want to take the initial and first month? Just change your statement to that. And most people will just assume that's the way it is. And then a few of them will say, well, can I pay the first month in a couple of weeks? Fine. So let me answer that question a little more directly. The order of business is this: you're getting the initial and first month, and then you ask how they want to do the monthly payments. You have not pulled any contract paperwork out yet. And we don't call the paperwork contracts, we call it membership agreements. So we have not pulled the membership agreement out at this point, whether you guys use electronic paperwork or not. So nothing scary. There's been no talk of 12 months yet, by the way. If you notice, my paperwork doesn't say 12 months, just says month per month. So we are not dealing with the number of months at this point. Now, sometimes people ask, and then we tell them it's about 1/3 of the way to black belt, which is about 12 months. That's fine. But we're not going to make a big deal out of it at this point. So we ask how they want to do the monthly payment. So typically this question is going to be because they give us a credit card, rarely any more checks. Occasionally they give you cash, but that's rare. So mostly it's a credit card. So you're going to ask to reflect the payment. So the way I say it is just reflect the payment. How would you like to take care of the monthly payments? You want to use the same card. How would you like to take care of the monthly payments? If they do cash, we never suggest cash, because nobody ever brings cash into the school. It's always got to be electronic. So how would you like to do the monthly payments? What card would you like to use in that case? How would you like to use the monthly payments? If it was a check, you could just give us, you want to use the same checking account. You don't need a voided check. We can just make a photocopy of that check. That's how we would do it. But again, checks are so rare anymore. I don't think my guys would even know what to do, because they just never see them. So I train them, but I don't think they would know what to do. So ask about the monthly payment. No membership agreement is out yet, right? Then we bring the membership, then we fill the membership agreement out. And then, because now I have a reason why I need to fill this more scary paperwork out. So they say, yes, I want to use the same card. Okay, cool. And then I bring the membership agreement out, preferably pre-filled out. I know some of you guys don't want to waste paperwork. Preferably it's pre-filled out. And then we fill it out. And then if they have any objection on the term, we deal with it then. And then we'll use the same belt guarantee if we need to. But rarely by this point, excuse me, if you follow this process, because they've already paid money here, if you do this, you rarely get objections on term here. It's much more rare. If you include in this paperwork here, if you put monthly objections here, now you've got 3 things to deal with, and you're dealing with too many things at once. You're dealing with initial, monthly, and term at the same time, and it makes it more complicated. Complicated people are not going to buy. So it's a much worse scenario. So you deal with the term here. And by the way, MJ, for you on the renewal as well. On the renewal, you would do that as well. And for our leadership guys, you do that on the renewal too. You fill out the membership agreement, then you deal with any monthly concerns at that point. Usually they're not, but if there are, then we would just use the belt guarantee, and it's really easy. Let's get them to the first belt. If you don't think it's the best thing you've ever done for your kid, you just cancel, no questions asked. And then we write that in the membership agreement. We write it in because if there was no concern, then we don't need to provide that guarantee. Okay, questions about the paperwork order. I think I answered that question then, Chris. Does that cover what you said? Yeah, but ask for
I
the
have a
initial
question about the
switching.
paperwork.
Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
So when you bring out the membership agreement, there are some terms, for instance, like our policy on holds, right? Like, if you go away for a month to Italy or whatever, your payments will continue. But whatever time you took off, just let them know at the back end of your membership, and we'll add that to it. You always get what you pay for. Is that the point at which you'd bring something like that up?
No,
Okay,
no, we don't do that until after it's all signed.
got it. Okay,
Because that's not the decision point of whether they enroll for 12 months or whether they do the basic program. Let me show you how we do that. Let me give an easier example of how you would see that. Let me see if I can. Well, let me show you in the book, but I have this on paper too. Any other questions on this part of it? No.
No.
Okay.
that was really helpful. Thank you.
I was super thorough then. Okay, so what we do, and this is also on paper, but I'll show you here. This is our new student policies. I have these laminated, but we don't use the laminated version. I just have it here as an emergency backup if they were out of paper. But it's like a total emergency backup. But to me, this is magic. I got this from a guy named Larry Hoover he's in South Dakota. But this is the new student policies and procedures is something they fill out. And if you notice right there's an extension policy. And this extension policy says, I'll read it to you. Your program is extended, does not interfere with monthly payments. If less than 2 weeks, please attend extra classes. But this, after they're done, they filled out their membership agreement, it's signed, everything's totally done. We will do the new student policies and procedures. Let me see if I can find the better version of this. This on paper. This is after, so they've enrolled. They're done. They've done the enrollment. Well, the new student policies and procedures, and you can find policies and procedures on the Facebook group to copy mine. But let me just explain how this works. What we do is we either have it on a 2-part form, which is the way we do it, or you guys could replicate this today on I used to do it on 2 pieces of paper. I would hand you a piece of paper. I would have a piece of paper and hand you a pen. And I'd say, well, you initial it as we go through it. And I would initial my side of it and I would fill stuff in. And so, for example, let me grab this so I can share the screen with you guys and have a better version. And this is also on the whole thing is on the Facebook group, but here we go. And share screen. So if you guys aren't using, some of our long-term members should be using this already. If you're not, in my opinion, you're making a big mistake, because this policies and procedures to me is one of the more magical things that we've done. Let's say I hand you this paper, I've got a copy, and I just say, initial this as we go through, and I'm going to talk about student information. I'm going to be writing on this. So I'll write your primary academy is going to be the Cave Creek School. This is because we have some students go to multiple schools for this or that, but we tell them which ones. And then we give them the phone number that they call if they need stuff, because that's not our main marketing number. And we ask them what school they go to. So if they go to XYZ Elementary, so we can start marketing to their teacher. We ask them their teacher's name so we can start initiating show and tell conversations to their teacher. We did that right up front. I'm writing this there and I asked them to write that on their paper. Obviously, if they're preschool, then maybe they have a tutor time or some other school, maybe they don't. Then we tell them newsletters or we email them stuff and we tell them other things. There's a board that they look at, they initial it. When we get to extension policy, to cover Ben's question and for you guys, we never do anything. We never utter the word hold, freeze, pause, ever. That has never happened ever once in history, ever. We don't do that. There's no hold, freeze, pause, anything policy ever. We don't have that. We do have an extension policy and we tell them on day one, this is their enrollment when they enroll. So the way that we're is, do we have a question there? Okay. So the extension policy, when we get to this point, we say, here's our extension policy. If you miss any classes, your program's extended. And all we say here is if it's less than 2 weeks, make sure you come in extra times before or after your vacation. If you're gone or if you're out sick or something, you can take some classes after you're, obviously you don't know if you're out sick. So you take some classes when you come back and you can do extra classes. Okay. So that you don't miss your testing. So you make sure you're ready. If you're gone more than 2 weeks, we just add that time on to the end of your program. So just initial that. Okay. Now classes, and then we go through the rest and we go cover when they're supposed to come in so that they make sure they don't miss any classes. And then we go through all the rest of this stuff. This stuff is about their drop off. They have to be escorted in and out of the school. We don't let them drop them off the parking lot. And then all the other crap that we do, including when they're going to do their progress check. At Master Lapin School, you guys are listening. You guys do this now really well as you make sure your progress check's done in 2 weeks. So we confirm that they're going to do their first progress check in 2 weeks. So pretty much this is to cover all the different sins that our guys might forget at the beginning. To cover Ben's question specifically, this is when we cover what happens if they ever miss classes. If they're gone for the summer, what do? Add it to the end of their program. We already told them on day one. If they're gone for less than 2 weeks, we don't do any of that stuff because we don't want to have to administrate that. They should take classes before or after they go so they are on track for their testing. That's it. Okay. That's it. So that we don't have to worry about any of that. Now, you might ask, you might be thinking that we pull this piece of paper out and show it to them and say, look, you understood that your program, if you leave for the summer, we don't stop your payments. You have to suck it up and pay the payments and you get your payments at the end of the program. What ends up happening is none of that. We never have that problem because if they're gone for the summer, once in a while, we'll get somebody say, hey, we're going to be gone for the summer. And we live in Arizona. It's already 100 something degrees out here, right? It's May. It's going to be 100 million degrees in July. So there's a lot of people leave for the summer. So nobody can tell me that they have a lot of people leaving for the summer. So if somebody says that and they say, well, can we, hold our payments? They'll say those words. They say, well, what we do is anytime that you miss, we extend your program for any amount of time you're missed. First, we ask how long they're going to be gone. They're going to be gone for a month. Okay, great. We're going to extend your program a month, and any time you miss that you paid for, you never lose. And that's it. And we've never, I could ask Master Sanborn if she's ever had to pull this out. I mean, in all the schools and all the students, we have hardly ever had to even look at this for a student. I mean, it just hardly ever happens because we deal with it on day one. And it's better to deal with it like this than in a contract format. Because if I would show you a contract format, then it's like mean and you're kind of a general rule of business. If you have to, you're already in a fight if you have to show somebody your contract. So this is a much better way to do it. And you're covering a lot of other sins. So I recommend everybody use this when you enroll somebody after your paperwork's done. You've got them, you got your monthly payments all figured out and your membership agreement done. This is a great thing. Now, at the end, we hand them the copy that we initialed and we keep the copy that they initialed. So we just trade the papers. Or if you want to do what we do, we have this in a 2-part form that are very cheap to make. And then we just, after they initial them all and, everything's all written and figured out, we just give them the yellow copy and we keep the original. Questions on that?
Yeah, sorry, is this, sorry. Is this something that you do on the day of enrollment then? So after you've
Yeah,
not
right.
filled
The
out.
same day
Yeah.
they enroll. So the enrollment will be lesson. So if we're doing a 2-part intro, we would do the first lesson and then get them ready for the second class. Then they do the class and they do the enrollment. And then right after the enrollment and they sign the membership agreement, very next thing we do is say, okay, let's go over our student policies and procedures. Congratulations on being a student. And then we pull this out and we do this. So literally they cannot be a student unless they've done this. Every single student forever and ever has done this. If you look at our student information sheet, here's our student information sheet that, let me stop the share. This is our student information sheet that has, them fill in their name and address and stuff. Here shows there's no refund policy and they, any pictures and photos we take or videos or our property and everything else. And then that I just showed you basically says what our policy is for any extensions of their membership. So everything's covered on day, essentially when they walk in the door. And if you cover stuff when they walk in the door, then you're pretty much covered, right? And you communicated clearly. There's no later on you're going to communicate something different or change the rules on them. So we never change the rules on them. It's always been the same rules the whole way. The students know it. All my instructors know it. They don't communicate it differently. It's always communicated the same way. And they never use, I never use hold, freeze, pause, any of those words. We don't utter those words. That's my recommendation. Because the words can imply money stopping. But extension doesn't imply money stopping, does it?
So,
Question,
if you don't
sir.
mind, if I
I have a
Please,
question.
go ahead, Christian.
Oh,
So Krista bumped it.
we both have questions.
yeah.
Okay.
I have 2 questions. One, what do you do with, say they're gone for the summer, because we have a lot of people who are gone for the summer as well. What do you do with those 2 months extension? You put it on the end. Are you giving them free 2 months at the end, or are you rolling that into a renewal?
So that's a good question. So one of 2 things is going to happen. Either we are always going to do a blitz, what we call the blitz, which is a little beyond this group's purview, but it's similar to what I talked about, where we meet with everybody in the April, May, or May, June timeframe, depending on when your school lets out, and in November, December. We're going to meet with everybody in the school and set their goals for the next at least year, if not the rest of their career, their martial arts career. And so everybody's going to get met with, and we're going to decide what their program level is. Either they move up, renew, or if they're already renewed, they're going to get evaluated for, are they going to go into our instructor training, or are they going to renew their membership? So if you're, let's say, within 18 months of expiring, you're going to be on the renewal, that kind of renewal list. You're ready to expire, right? So you're in our leadership program, but you're 18 months away from expiring. You're already a 2nd degree black belt. You've got, 12 months left, let's say. 2 months of that are maybe 6 months of that, because every summer you've gone for 2 months, are free. So you've got really, 12 months left plus another 6 months. You got 18 months left. That's fine. So we're going to talk to you about your plans and your goals, and you really want to make it to 3rd degree black belt, or maybe you said, no, after this, after we get to 8th grade, we're quitting. Okay, cool. Whatever. I don't know, whatever the plan is for you. So if your plans are at that point to quit, and I am not talking you out of it, you don't really have any goals beyond that. You're going to start playing football or whatever, soccer, or whatever you're going to do, basically professionally at high school. If anybody's kid ever played a sport at high school, it's like professional. Then, okay, cool. Then they get to use the time for free. No problem. It's fine. But most of the time they're doing one of 2 things. They're either training and going to continue training, or they're not. If they're not, then it's fine. The time just expires. If they're training, then the time gets rolled into the next membership. So we'll give them a discount, like we'll extend it and calculate that extra 6 months into a discount on their next renewal. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so one of two things is always going to be happening. And we're talking about somebody who's been with us like 6 years. So we're really, really nice and flexible with them. They've got this 6 months that they've been kind of stacked at the end. We'll use that 6 month as like a credit on the next program. And then everybody's super happy.
And then the other question I have is, we're going into summer now. So we have a lot of people who are starting and saying, well, we're going to be gone in the whole month of June and the whole month of July. Maybe we should just wait to enroll until we get back. How do
That
you
covers a little bit of MJ's question about the wait to enroll. Wait to enroll, you mean they're already a student?
No, they're trying their 2 weeks and this kid really likes it, but going to be sporadic. I have an example, going to be sporadic through May and then going to be gone all of June. And then, can we just enroll when we get back?
Well, that's the want to wait thing. So they want to wait. Look up the want to wait, stuff on Facebook. The reason they need a deal and a penalty. So the deal is they're trading their 2 weeks towards a basic program. If they do it now, they get to use the credit for the 2 weeks. And I'd hate for when you come back to spend an extra $600. So if you do it now, what we'll do is a couple things. One is you save the $600, and then, but first thing, let's back up a little bit. Let's go through weight, deal, safety. The first thing is, it sounds like you do want to do it and you're ready to get started in martial arts, but you've got a little bit of trouble right now with the sporadicness of your schedule over the summer. Is that right? And they're going to say, yeah. So you definitely want to do it and we're all good, but you're a little concerned about the schedule. And then I talked through the schedule real thoroughly. So I know when they're going to have a really easy time and when it's going to be sporadic and everything else. Right. And they'd say, yeah, that's right. June 28th, we're going to be back in town for the rest of the summer, but in the middle of June, we're going to be really busy, or July 28th, we're going to be back in town for the rest of the year. But in the middle of that, we're going to be out for a week, then we're back, and then we're going to be out, and then we're back. So we could take class in the middle, but it's going to be sporadic. So you guys would like to take class in the middle, but you kind of don't want to, you're a little worried about getting started now because it'll be sporadic until July 28th, right? So I've had that conversation. You see how the conversation worked? Now we're more connected about the conversation. Yes. Well, let's do this then. I'd hate for you to not save the $600 or whatever the savings is. So let's get them started now. So you save the $600. And what we'll do is we won't start your membership, your regular, time until the July 28th. And we'll give you free time from now till then because it's going to be sporadic. And then we'll get them started on that date. Now, I would start the payments just automatically normally, because remember, just like Patrick asked, the program's like, $3,700. I'm giving them free time in the middle. I just awarded 2 free months in the middle. You see what I did? Their end date's going to be out 2 months later. I just give them 2 free months. It's fine. See, giving 2 free months is no big deal. Does that make sense, Krista?
So you're still extending it on the end, or
I would automatically extend it on the end. They just told me exactly what I just said on the extension policy. They're going to be a little weird for a couple months. So just automatically extend the program for the couple months and build that into what you're telling them at in the front end. So now you're going to say, oh, so this, but again, hear what I said, because I don't want to spend the time here to have the whole conversation, but the conversation might be 5 minutes of, oh, well, where are you going and what's going on and where are you going to be and how are you going to do stuff and whatever. And here's when you're going to do classes and you're going to be sporadic, but you'll be back for these 2 weeks and all that. Then you wrap it up with, once I've got a solid idea of their schedule, okay, so you want to do this and this and this, and you could try it a little bit. Why don't we do it now? So you save the $600 something. And then what we'll do is start your training on this day. Now, what they may say is they don't want to pay in those 2 months. That's fine. They could just pay their initial and first month now, and we'll just start their payment out, after their first month after they start, like in the middle of August. Well, that's fine. Now they've made their first payment. They're going to be really solid at starting in August.
But regardless, they do the initial installment and the first month, regardless.
Yeah. If they want to save the $600.
Got it.
Yeah, because they traded.
You wouldn't have the initial installment, but then forego that first month until later.
I'm not foregoing it. I'm just, whatever,
Okay.
it'd be the same thing if somebody walked in and they're going to get training right now. Maybe they can afford the initial, but maybe they've got to re-roof their house. And so they've got to defer their first month for, 3-4 weeks or something, or, Master Oliver always tells the story about somebody who said they really want to get started, but they've got to finish paying off skiing lessons. And he came in to save an enrollment, and the skiing lessons were like, well, how long is the skiing lessons going to be for? Well, they're $699 a month, and they're going to be on for 6 more weeks. Well, okay, why don't we just start your first payment in 8 weeks? That solved the problem. Just ask what's going on and then solve the problem. We've got lots of flexibility of solving the problem. Don't get so caught up in, it's got to be some sort of cookbook that they have to pay this now. What you can't do though, Kristen, I think you're doing it, I'm reading between the lines, is letting these guys do the 2 weeks for a while and then cooking them and then trying to do an enrollment. This should be done on the first or second class. Is that right?
Yes, sir. We are doing it on the first or second class. This was a second class objection is what they were saying. We really
Okay, they said they
really
wanted to try.
do it, but we're going to be sporadic, and then we're going to be gone. And then it was actually one of my staff who did it. I was out of town. So they're coming back, and then I want to talk to, I'm going to
Okay.
talk.
Yeah. So you can save that by just saying, I know Mr. Jones talked to you and that was, and they said you really liked it and you thought it was going to be a really good thing for you, but you had some difficulties with your schedule. And then they'll spew what their schedule is on you and you get a really good feel for that. Okay, great. Well, I heard she's doing really good. What I want to do is make sure you save the $600 and you don't lose that credit. Well, what do you mean lose the credit? Now the penalty gets clear. If the penalty is not clear and they know that they would definitely lose the credit, then there's no reason not to wait. See, that's what's got to be clear with you guys. It's got to be super clear that there's a reason to do it now. If it's not clear there's a reason to do it now, then there's absolutely no reason not to wait. It doesn't make any logical sense for them to get enrolled. Now, if you don't have the safety part, then it's very difficult too. So you have to have both of those two things. So that's the safety is important. So they try it. And you could still give them the belt guarantee in that case, because that would be perfectly congruent. They'd be all the way up to like September, October. Does that make sense, Krista?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Christian, you had a question then?
My question involved the exact same thing, so it was answered.
She read your mind. Awesome.
I know, she did.
Somebody else had a question on this stuff. Patrick, you were going?
Super quick as well.
Okay, let's let Sensei Lawrence here go.
Yeah. So this is something we've discussed in the past as well, about taking the first month with the initial investment. So with savings and things, our initial comes at £200 and our, the monthly as well is about the same. Now, we'd love to do it up front at the same time, because then instead of taking 200 initially on its own, we're doubling what we're taking on that first day, basically. Want to figure out the best way to do this, because, for example, now with, say, coming up to the middle of the month, 99% of our students opt to pay on the first of the month via just a direct debit with the card monthly. So what would you do in this situation now if it was, middle of the month? How do you want to settle the initial in the first month? Then, what's the situation with, the next month is going to come out in 2 weeks?
Well, why are they doing the first of the month?
Because, well, that's what 99% of what our students do. I mean, it's just.
Well, yeah, but why are they doing the first of the month? Because you tell them that, how do you do the next part? Remember, I had that little chart. Now you ask, how would you like to take care of your monthly payments? You want to use the same card.
Yeah.
And then you fill out the paperwork. And when you write them, the day they're going to do their draft, what makes you write the first of the month? Do they say they want it to be on the first? You just ask them, what day do you want the draft to be? How do you say that?
So our direct debit system allows us to do the 1st or the 15th of the month. It's a little bit different over here. We we can't just choose. So for example,
Yeah,
today.
no, it's okay. I get it. You can do the first
Yeah.
or the 15th, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so I would do the same process.
Right.
Remember, how much does the program cost?
The year, so it would be £2,588.
Okay, cool. So you're gonna, how would you like to take care of the initial in the first month? They pay you, and then you just say, you want the card, you want the monthly payments on the same card. Okay, cool. You bring the paperwork out for that. You fill it out, do whatever you want to do. Would you like the payment to be on the 1st or the 15th? If they say the 1st, write it for the 1st of June.
Yeah.
And if they say, oh, the 1st of June is only going to be in a couple of weeks. Okay, you want it on the 15th then? Yeah. Okay, cool. And if they say, oh, can we make it the 1st of July? Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
So basically, they're still paying the initial in the first month anyway, and then, you know, it's up to them anyway just to say, you know, we'll do it for the 15th because then it's a month anyway as it is.
Don't get caught up in this proration crap of when the payment comes out. You're still getting it within that 30-day period, which would still pay your bills for the month anyway, number one. But let's think of the other, plus it's less complex. Never, ever, ever, ever think about like the next monthly payment is some prorated amount to match something up. Never, ever, ever. That's one piece. You're still getting it within a 30-day spot. Now, I like the payments to come out actually how you're doing it, which is like on solid spots, so that you can then go back and do like on the 15th of every month, you could check, or the 16th or 17th, maybe you could check and make sure all your payments and audit them. And then you only have one day a month to double check and see if anybody missed.
Yeah. So we get a spreadsheet on the 1st, well, maybe about the 5th of the month, and then probably about the 20th from the
But
company.
so you've got another option.
And that sort of
Yeah,
things.
I would just assumptively do the next possible date. Because remember, your program isn't monthly, your program is the full cost. And they're going to have one payment at the end. If they quit after the basic program and don't renew, then they're going to have one payment at the end that's going to be like paid early. So that's fine. It's no big deal. There's no big deal on here. Remember, the other piece of this is, and everybody sink this in, the more they put down initially, the more solid of an enrollment they are, and the more likely they're going to come the next month, which is the sweet spot for them to stay with you. So this helps your retention. When you get the down in the first month initially, it helps your retention. And it doesn't hurt your conversion rate. I promise you there's no change in conversion rate. Because if somebody can't afford the first month now, it's fine. Just, okay, when do you want to pay it? Okay, fine, whatever. In your case, you're going to say, you want to do it on the 1st? Cool. You want to do it on the 15th? Cool, whatever. Cool, fine. You know, like, that's great. Whatever, right? And you're no worse off, but like 80% of them will do it the way they'll comply. They'll just comply with what you said. And then you're good to go. And then a few of them will be a little later, and then you're fine. You're fine too. Doesn't matter. You know, what's going to happen is the ones that give you the first month up front are going to be more solid. And that's a big piece of what we want. We want more solid students in it. So it's a tool. The more important tool, really, I mean, we'd like to have you get the money up front. And somebody told me I lost $1 million. So now I feel depressed. Thanks, Heidi. I think it was you. Yeah, yay for you. Anyway, so thanks a lot. But anyway, but what we do want the money because it is kind of additional money we make, but it makes the student more solid, will help your retention. And when we're talking about trying to get your retention numbers down below a loss rate of 3 to 2%.
Hi, is he in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Rachel's making some noise there. Okay, so anyway, does that help? That help solve the problem?
Yeah, definitely. Good. Yeah, I'll speak to the team about this and make sure we're all up to date with what we're going to do. And again, why not start tomorrow? So
yeah, exactly.
Our lessons are done for tonight. Now it's nearly it's 20 past 8. So yeah, we'll start tomorrow.
Yeah, you can't start tonight. Yeah, and that's a good point you just made about starting this stuff with especially with it asking for the first month up front. I mean, there's just no way to do it except just do it. I mean, that's what I did when I remember that conversation with Master Oliver and I as soon as the light went on that I should do that, I mean, immediately did it. And then the guys looked at me funny for a little bit, but luckily I have enough control of my staff that they were really good about just doing it. And so they just started doing it and it just all worked out. And it just was easy. It's easy if you just begin and start doing this stuff and don't argue with yourself about it. Patrick, you had a question. I thought you had unmuted, or anybody else. What other questions we have?
No, you've answered my question. This has been incredibly helpful. This entire session's been great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay, guys. Well, we've got about 10 more minutes. Couple things to remember. Don't forget, be at the live meeting. It's not too late to get scheduled for that. So be at the live meeting. These live meetings are so critical for you. I can't tell you what it means. Number one, to be at the live meeting, to get to work with the guys. Unfortunately, I won't be at this one because I'm going to be in Argentina, actually. So you'll be seeing me do these meetings from Argentina. I'm going to be there for about 5 weeks because I'm there with my wife. She's doing her last semester of Spanish in Argentina. So I have to leave Saturday, but I'll be at all the rest of our Zoom meetings, of course. And I'll be doing those in English. But because I don't know any Spanish, so she'll have to interpret for me there. But I won't be at this one, but Master Oliver and Grandmaster Smith are going to be at the live meeting. To have time with them is super valuable in itself. The other piece is for you to be removed from your normal environment and have some time to just work on yourself and your school. And yourself is a big part of it, is really more valuable than any money or time can account for. So this is a big deal to take some time to do this. So maybe some of you guys haven't taken the time to schedule for it, or you think you still can't make it. There really isn't any good reason not to go. Whatever your reasons are, really not good reasons, I guess, unless you're getting married and you can't tell the person to delay it, or you could get married there. Maybe there's probably somebody in Colorado can marry you. You can do that in the evening, then you can go right to the rest of the stuff, and then never mind. That's probably not good marriage advice. I wouldn't listen to me about those kind of things. But anyhow, the seminar is really important to go to. All these live events. The next one's going to be in November. And I wouldn't miss any of them though. So to the idea, some of our guys go to every one, and the guys that go to every one are almost always the people that we get accelerating up to $80, $90, $100,000 a month, and start getting a flood of leads right away. So there's no real replacement for going there. But last thing, in the last 5 minutes, anybody have any questions about summer marketing? This is a time where there's a lot of opportunity. This should be really one of your busiest times of year. There's 3 major super busy times: summer, going into summer, and summer back to school time. And this is whether you're adult or kids market, and then New Year time. Those are 3 big, huge times that you have a little more leverage than you used to. So increasing your online marketing buys, doing a lot more grassroots marketing, and doing PR, school outreach. School outreach is, it sounds weird because it's summer, but wherever the kids were, they're transitioning to another something. It's either with the schools, in conjunction with the schools, or into another school or a kid related activity. So into summer camps, summer activities, summer programs, either related to the schools or not. So this is a lot of opportunity because of those transitions. Transitions give you opportunities. I think sometimes people think that it's slower because the places the kids were, or the places your prospects were for adults, are now not there anymore. Well, but they went somewhere else, and they didn't all go on vacation. Believe me, they're not all that rich to leave for the summer. It'd be cool if they were, then we'd have a different conversation. But there's a lot of opportunities. Any last questions on any of that stuff? Or are you trying to queue up for the summer?
So in regards to summer coming up, when you mentioned that there is a transition that these kids make, are there any good spots or good recommendations you have for acquiring a lot of those leads going into the summertime months?
So a couple of things going down the list, starting with schools. So some of your schools are out, like in Arizona here, they're out like at the end of this week and next week, so they get out early. In some of your areas, it's going to be next week or next month, like a month from now. So you can still work some things with the schools, but the school districts either have their own programs or they outsource programs or they have nothing. So it's one of those three. It's one of those three that they're putting the kids somewhere. So the kids got to go somewhere because almost all parents are two-parent working families now. So that's the first thing I would find is where are those kids going? I find that sometimes you'll find that the private and Montessori and parochial, religious schools or charter schools are easier to work with. And those schools will have that same scenario. They're either providing their own programs, outsourcing to another organization, or they're doing nothing, absolutely nothing. And finding out which one of those options are true first is really the first recon that we need to do. So the easy way to do that is just Google schools in your zip code, and you have a list of all the schools in your area. And I look out about 5 miles to 6 miles, depending on the population density in your area. If I was in like where Amanda Olson is in Johnson City, Tennessee, I probably have to look 10 miles. But for a lot of you guys, 5 miles is adequate. For Patrick, you're in Manhattan, so you probably just need to look a mile or two. So how far do we need to look out depends on your population density. Generally, for most of your 5 miles, list of all the schools. Where are the kids going? And on their websites, they might have something. If you can find out where the kids are going directly, like the school has a program or they're outsourcing it, then what we can do is do programs within their summer programs. And believe me, every one of the summer programs, they want to kill time. That's the hardest thing for those guys to do, is use up 8 hours a day with these kids. It's not like regular elementary school where they actually have stuff to do. In these programs, they're just trying to kill time, and then figure out what to do. So finding out where the kids are going is your first job of recon. And then each one of those can be a target for you to go in. And I like the partner in education letter that Master Oliver originally put together. I think we've got a bunch of different copies on the webpage. And you can go to each of these kind of groups and talk to them about what you can do for their school. Now, in this call on our Thursday meeting, we don't emphasize the working with the schools stuff as much because it's a little harder. I will warn you ahead of time, it's a little bit harder work because you will go to 10 different groups like this that I'm mentioning. And by the way, I mean churches and basically any place that kids are. And again, for the adult market, places that adults are. Health clubs have lots of different programs, and they will also be happy to have you be part of what they do because they need stuff too. They need content. When you go to 10, have the expectation of 2 dimensions of this. One is when you go to 10 different groups, you might only get 3 or 4 or 5 of them that are responsive, that'll talk to you. And you probably have to go to each of these groups in 3 or 4 different ways, just like a normal school type of thing. If it was a regular school program, you might have to go to the principal, the PTO president, the PE teacher, and other people. With the summer school stuff, it can be harder or easier depending on the program. If they're outsourcing a program, you can go to the person who's in charge of the outsourced program, which could be any kind of group. I mean, we've gotten into programs where it was outsourced to some operation that just hired a bunch of 21-year-olds and basically babysat the kids all day long. So it was really easy to work with them because for us to come in and kill time with them for a couple hours or an hour every other week and get permission slips ahead of time and then execute all the normal stuff that we would do was really easy. So you just have to start with the recon and then start talking to them and then use the partner education letter to offer all the different things that you can do. So that would be step 1. I would recommend everybody start looking. We've been telling you again and again on movie and event promotions. Do a search in your area for events in your zip code. There's got to be lots of events in your area. People like transitioning. Well, there's events in Arizona and it's 1 billion degrees out. So even if you think the weather's not good, they'll do stuff. They'll do stuff inside. In fact, we're doing one this weekend that's outside and it's super hot here. So there really isn't any excuse anybody's got for not finding some events. Ours is called the Bubble Bash. It's at the mall. It's for on Saturday. Was it Mother's Day weekend, right? So Is it Mother's Day weekend? Yeah, it is Mother's Day weekend, right? It's coming up. My mom passed away, so I don't have to do anything. But anyway, Ben's making a face.
That was dark, boss.
Yeah, that was dark. So, well, she got lots of Mother's Days. So yeah, that was dark. Sorry about that. But well, that's why I don't remember. I'm sorry. I don't have to go to dinners or anything or brunches. I don't have to do brunches because of that. But anyway, but it's like but you want to look for things like that. We get in with them all, and we do like I think it's about a 4-hour activity, and we'll get like 40-50 appointments just in a short amount of time like that. So it's very, very productive to find events. So I want to, Christian, that was a good question. The events thing can be really lucrative and productive, and we keep telling you guys that if you're not hitting that hard, I recommend you guys try to go back and hit that hard again. And if you are hitting it, see if you can just loop back around to it. So those are a couple of things to really hit before next week, before you go to the live meeting. Remember, next week, we won't be having our regular meetings, our regular Tuesday, Thursday meetings. So we will start those back up again the next week. Make sure you're at the meetings the next week after our live event, because we always have a lot of stuff from the live event to re-energize about, because we had such good things happening at our live events. Okay, I think that's it. Unless anybody's got anything else. Bob, do we have anything else to cover?
No, sir, that is it. No, that'll be it. And again, if anybody's doing an Airbnb or looking to share a room, please post out there for the other members that are attending on the Facebook group. And just so you guys can share that information with each other. But other than that, I don't have anything, Master Moody.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's stay on for a second, you and I, and then everybody will see you later.
Sounds good.
Okay, guys.
Have a good day, guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.